Joshua chapter 23 verse 1. It says, Vayhi miyamim rabim, and it was after many days, Acharei asher hiniach Hashem Yisrael kol aveichem misaviv, after Hashem caused Bnei Yisrael to rest, as it were, from all of their enemies from around. So how does it say? Yeah, give rest. Okay, hiniach, we don't know this yet from the grammar, but it's the causative form of nach. Nach is to rest. Not like nach of Tanakh. That's a different spelling. But
as in menucha.
As in menucha, rest, right. So hiniach is a causative, that Hashem caused Bnei Israel to rest from all of their enemies from around. V'Hoshua, and Joshua is Zakein. He's old, Ba'av Yamim. He's come into his year, come along in his days. So yeah, go ahead. What's your question there, by the way? Let's ask the question, an obvious question. A very obvious question. Come on. We were at 23:1. Okay. So what's the obvious question?
So it was after many days. Is it really talking about years?
Yes. That's one thing. It does years. But there's another question there. When it says Yeshua Zakein Bab Yamim, Yeshua was old, he came into his days or into his years. Why do you have to say both? Just say Zakein. What do you have to go for both of these things for? That's one question that one could ask. I'm not saying you could. I'm not going to say I'm going to answer everything, but I'm telling you the questions one could ask. Where else do you see that? Now I'm going to test your biblical knowledge. You're all biblical scholars here. So where do we see this whole concept of Zakein Bab Yamim? One famous example, and I'll even give the book Genesis.
How about Moshe?
Nope.
How about
Abraham? It says Abraham Zakein Bab Yamim. He came and he was coming into his days. Okay. And so if you really want to know what that expression is,
so what is that? Maybe it means that not only he was chronologically old, but maybe also weakened at that point. I mean, a person could be old in years, but maybe still have vigor.
No, that actually means the opposite. Exactly, it means he has vigor.
What?
It means he has vigor, not that he didn't get weak. It's the opposite. So, there you go. But if you really want to know it, so you have to go to your Genesis and go to. It is Parsh Chayesara. I believe it's Chayesara where it says he came into his days. He was old and he came into his days. So it's not here. But it's, like I said, one of those things that you should be noticing when you're reading. Say, where is this and where else would it be? If you notice, nobody will comment on it here. It's an obvious question, but nobody comments.
Oh, wait, so there's no conjunction here. Yoshua Zakein Bar Vayamim, there's no conjunction. It's all one phrase.
Actually, not. If you look in the Hebrew,
yeah,
Yoshua Zakein, and on top of Zakein there is a Sakef Katon, which would mean a break in the sentence, and then Ba has the Tipcha, which again another break, Bayamim. So grammatically, there is certainly a separation between Zakein and Bab Yamim.
You wouldn't know that unless you had the trup there.
Correct. I'm saying. Yeah. But the point is one is Zakein. Once it says Zakein, it should mean he came into his age. The only other way you could argue it is to say what is Zakein. That is what we call a notricon, an abbreviation for this word, Zeh Shekona Chachma, this one that acquires wisdom. So a Zakein does not necessarily have to be a 65-year-old or some at retirement. Yes, we learned it many times. But it means that it could be a 15-year-old who's a Zakein. Zakeinim doesn't have to be old. It just has to be somebody who has wisdom. It's somebody who acquires the wisdom.
Does it refer to like an elder, but not meaning necessarily an ancient person?
Yes. Zakeinim. That's why as a Zakein can be, like I said, a young guy. And a na'ar, which would mean a young man, could be a 70-year-old in biblical language. Because a na'ar means a servant to somebody else. Or somebody subservient to that person. Like Joshua is called the na'ar of Moshe. And he was called the na'ar when he was 58. My father used to have, I love calling my father this one, as a meat cutter, so that was considered the man's job. The delivery guy was always the delivery boy. Well, my father was, I don't know, probably, I'm working with him, so he must be in his early 60s at that point, late 50s, early 60s. And the guy who was delivering was no younger than 80. and he said to me, give the package to delivery boy. And
Where's the boy?
I said, Dad, the guy is 80, he's a delivery boy. For him, it was a simple thing. If you're doing the job of a boy, you're a boy. Okay, the guy was 80, whatever he was. But that was how they called him, delivery boy. So, but that would be in Hebrew, na'ar. And the other guy would be, the leader would be the zaken. So it's not always a matter of age. But Bab Yamim he's coming into he's still strong and so on and so forth. That's what they say about, not that he got old. Okay, so that's number one. Then it says, Miyamim Rabim, so the Metzudas David looks at that and he says, Misof, what does it mean? That it was from many days? Well, it means it was at the end of these many days, or many years, as it were. Okay, Yamim, how do we know that? It's interesting, they're translating as days. How do we know that days really means years? Again, now you're going back to the Bible. Where do you see this from?
I know we talked about it before.
We learn it from the story when Eliezer, the servant of Abraham, goes to get a bride for Yitzchak, and the family says to him, he finds Rivka, and they say, okay, send him back. So let's go. You already said she can marry my master's child. Fine. So it says, give us a day and give us a yamim. Yamim? Yeah, I think yamim. Give us days, 2 days. By the way, yamim, whenever you go for a day, plural, you're always looking at the least. So it's 2 days. So give us 2 days. If you don't give us 2 days, then give us 10 months. So everybody says that's a crazy negotiation. If you don't want to give me 2 days to let my daughter go, to let our sister go, so you know what? We'll just give us 10 months and we'll be happy. Doesn't make sense, right? So we learn from that yamim means a year. Days. It means a year in that context. So year, give us a year. If you don't want to give us a year, give us 10 months. Oh, that makes sense already. So now when you're saying yamim, it doesn't always mean days. It could mean years. So in this context, it would make sense to say that after many days that Hashem allowed them to rest, it's after many years, because how many years do they have to fight? Does you know already? How many years do they have to fight? See, this is your big test. Okay, see how much we learned over the time. They were fighting for 7 years, and they were parceling out the land for another 7 years. But they were fighting for 7 years already, so it's a long time. So it's not just days. But that's when Hashem caused all the enemies to let them, to back off. Right? So now what happens? Vayikra Yoshua l'chol Yisrael. So Joshua called to all of Israel, l'zikenav, to his elders, u'leroshav, and to its heads, u'leshoftav, and to its judges, u'leshotrav, and to its police force, if you will. Vayomru aleihem, and he said to them, Ani zakanti, I have become old, or I am old. Bati biamim, again, I've come into my days. So what? Fine, and there's no questions here, right? Everybody's cool. He's calling to everybody.
Here they translate it now as advanced in years.
Advanced in years, there you go. It's also interesting that they're translating Aniza Kanti as in I am old. I am old.
Huh.
Okay, he's describing himself on. So Ve'atem Ra'item, and you have seen at Kol Asher Asa Hashem Elokeichem, all that Hashem, your God, has done, L'chol Hagoyim Ha'elep B'neichem, to all of these nations from before you. Ki Hashem Elokeichem, because Hashem, your God, Hua Nilcham Lachem, He is fighting for you. Or He fought for you. Yeah. Anything? So the Meshuz David says, "Hagoyim ha'ele, asher kavar kavashtim," that you already conquered. He's giving a little history lesson to them. He's reminding them of what happened because he's about to get into a whole speech here. So Ra'u hipalti lachem, see. It's a command form. See. Hipalti lachem et hagoyim hanish'arim ha'ele v'nachalal shivtechem. I have caused, or I have allotted to you to your I have allotted to you. Let's go in order of the words and see what happens here. Okay. See, I have allotted to you, I have caused to fall to you, actually, these remaining nations. By the way, you'll appreciate this. Hagoyim hanish'arim ha'ele. You have to go to the end to put it all together. Right? So Hagoyim, because otherwise is the nations, the remaining ones, these. Fine. So you have to put Hagoyim hanish'arim ha'ele. That's one whole word pair, if you will. So these remaining nations into or in the inheritance of your tribes. And they said allotted. Okay? That's how they translate it in my book. Allotted. How they translate in your book? Allotted?
I have allotted.
Yeah.
Okay? And like I said, in Hebrews, I caused to fall to you. Okay? And what's the difference with allotted and I caused to fall to you?
Nothing.
Not in English, you're right. But in Hebrew, think about what he's saying. I've caused to fall to you these nations. I've given you these. You can take it in two ways. If I really want to be homiletical, okay? There's only homiletics that I'm about to do right now. I've caused them to fall to you. In other words, if you merit, they'll always be under you. If not, I'm causing you to fall by them. Hipalti. I caused to fall. The question is who?
Conditional.
It could be. Homiletically. Again, I'm going homiletically. For those who are following me, it's telling you it's homiletically. But you could use that easily. When you come to Hebrew, you could learn a lot from the language. If I just use the word a lot, I don't get that from that word. I gave you something. I allotted you something. Shkoyach. It's not. I gave it to you. Fine. Natati. I gave it to you. That's what allotment. But hipalti is a different language. It's a much stronger language. Again, I'm going to, that's my job as a rabbi, to be homiletic. It's something that we have to be sensitive to language on. So then he continues to say, Min hayarden, from the Jordan, v'chol hagoyim asher hichrati, and all of these nations that I have cut off, v'hayam agadol mevo hashemesh, and the great sea that is toward the setting, to the great sea of the setting of the sea. So Rashi says, Rosh Limo, when it says Mitzvus Davis, I'm sorry. Hipalti, it says, Hipalti begaro alehem. I've caused him to fall into this lottery. Hanish arim, who are these remaining ones? Asher yadayan lo chavashtem. The ones you still didn't conquer. Now, the ones you conquered. God took care of them. But the ones you didn't conquer yet, they're the ones benachala. Lechelka benachala hashvatim. They are in the portions of the inheritance of your of the tribes. Min Yarden, from the Jordan. Hayoshvim min Yordan v'Halam Kalfi Amarav. The ones who are dwelling from the Jordan onwards toward the east, toward the west. Sorry, V'chol Hagoyim, and all of the nations. Gam Mehem Chalaktim Garal. I have also caused them to. I have also split them up amongst the lottery. V'hayam Musav. What does it mean? The sea. Musav al min Yarden Lomar. It means from the Jordan, to say from the Jordan until the great sea that stands toward the setting of the sun. That's how Meshuz David looks at this. And okay, so far so good. Now we go on. It says, "V'Hashem Elokeichem," and Hashem, your God, Hu Yedafim Mipnechem, He has driven them out from before you. V'Horish Otam Lifnechem, and again another word for driving out. You will inherit it from them. No, I was right the first time. There's two words. Yedafim is pushing out. Horish is driving out. Salsa is an interesting thing. So Hashem caused, just from the Hebrew, I keep looking at the English to see what they're saying, but they're okay. They'll push you out, and you will, and they will be driven out from before you. By the way, what's he saying there? Not you are driving them out. They will be pushed out. They will be driven out. It's God doing this.
God.
And that's what and that is what he is saying to him. And then what's going to happen? And you will inherit their land. Just as Hashem your God has said to you. Not sworn to you, by the way. Said to you. Because what's it all based upon? If I follow the Torah. If I don't follow the Torah, then it's not going to happen. But if I follow it, that's what it means. God spoke to us about this. And we're talking about the remaining people that are there. Now, also interesting, this is your famous Vav conversive. Okay, V'horish. We always talk about the Vav, right? The Vav conversive. How do I know V'horish doesn't mean and he drove them out from before you? How do I know that? It's all for you grammar, my grammar course. How do you know this? That's the honors course. I'm doing an honors course right now. Okay. So how do you know? Which credit do you get? That's a question. The credit up in heaven. Okay. But if I'm asking, I want to know. I'm translating. How do I know V'horish means that instead of they will be driven out from before you? Why can't it mean and he drove them out from before you and you inherited their land just as Hashem spoke to you? What would you say? Come on, you know the answer. Look at the full sentence. See, all these people online are wondering, what's going on
Yeah,
here?
what's happening?
What's going on? Okay.
Because the word before is future tense.
Which word?
You have dafim.
Beautiful. You won the prize. You got the honors credit. Good. Because Yedafim is future, it causes, at that point, that the Vav conversive is indeed a Vav conversive, not just a Vav conjunctive. You understand what I'm saying? Okay. That's the important thing. When you're translating, you have to know what's going on in the sentence. I can't just look at, in the past, the Vav conversive does not matter what's under the Vav. It could be a kametz, it could be a patach, it could be a shva. It doesn't matter in the past. It has to go by context. And that's when you know, does it reverse the past to the future or not? When it's future, it has to be a va. That's when it's going to change it. Or with a shva, in the future, it never changes it. It leaves it where it is. But like I said, the grammar course is working for you. Baruch Hashem. Good. Happy to see that. Always good to see that. Okay, so where is it? Okay, oh, that's all he said. Fine. Next. So v'chazaktem ma'od, and you shall be very strong. L'shmor la'asot, to guard and to do. Ekol ha'katuv b'sefer Torah Moshe, to do all that is written in the book of the Torah of Moshe. Levilti sor mimenu, yamenu small, and not to turn from it right or left. What does that mean, by the way? Again, we know a lot of this stuff, but what does that mean? Right or left?
Straight ahead.
Don't add to or don't subtract from.
Right. That's what it means. Yeah. The way that Mr. David says is hu inya malitza v'hush al mimaholuch derech yasham, to walk in the straight path. She'ein lahatov imenu lo yamin small. You shouldn't go right to left. You shouldn't add, subtract, same sort of thing. Okay. One thing about the digest, I always forget to do this. Again, just to run through it, he's saying that Joshua called to all the Israel, namely elders and the heads and judges. He did not call the entire nation, but his leaders who represented it. And the question is why. So Joshua sensed the importance of admonishing the leaders of the people separately for the fate of the people. For the fate of the people ultimately rests on the competence and integrity of its leaders. Or as one of my presidents, a president I knew of a show, wasn't mine. I joined later, but he said that the fish always starts smelling from the head downward. So, but he didn't see it as a president that we were smelling from. He blamed it on the rabbi. Like every good president, shift the blame. Okay, but but that's what Joshua was saying. He's saying the leaders are the ones who are ultimately responsible for keeping the people on the straight and narrow. So that's who he's bringing together. He's bringing together his cabinet and giving them the Musar, and not everybody. What did Moshe do? What did Moshe do? Did Moshe just call the cabinet together when he was dying?
I don't think so.
No, he assembled everybody. Gave everybody the Musar. Joshua doesn't do that. That's one of the major differences that you see between Joshua's leadership and Moshe's leadership. Moshe understood that. No, I mean the leaders are responsible. It's true, and he tells them off, but he assembles everybody, and he tells everybody off.
In this translation, it sounds like he assembled everybody. Joshua summoned all Israel, and then.
Right. Well, it says to all Israel, but then it says then it identifies Kenav, Rashav, Shavtav, Shatrav. So if it would have said, by the way, and that's why the commentary is saying this. I'm not sure who the G is, but the commentary, if it would have said Vayikra Yoshua, Lizikenav, Rashav, Shavtav, Shatrav, Ulechol Yisrael. In other words, Chol Yisrael is last. Then it's and everybody. But when it says Vayikra Yeshua lechol Yisrael, to all of Israel, who are they? Zekenav, Zarshav, Shotav, Shotrav. You understand? That's when it changes again. It's a minor difference in the reading, but can make the whole difference. So you can learn from that he only calls leadership. He calls his cabinet together and says, "Hey, a bunch of Shvendriks, you're the ones that are responsible." Not these other guys. These other guys are sheep. They're going to follow you. Don't worry about it. But you have to be the leaders. You can look at it that way. So that's what I'm saying. It's very interesting. All because of the juxtaposition of the words. So who's L'chol Yisrael? Because, well, by the way, how can they ask that? But that's another question you should be asking. If it says Vayikra Yeshua L'chol Yisrael, stop there. He called to all of Israel. Stop the sentence. You don't have to go anywhere else. You call all of Israel. Leave me alone. Once you start saying to his elders, to his heads, to his judges, to his police, well, aren't they part of Israel? So that's how the commentary understands that it's when it says L'chol Yisrael, the general, well, now we have specifics. So it must mean that the specifics are the only one that we're calling all of Israel. And by the way, you could argue, people on the tape are going nuts there. You could argue, wait, how could you say that? It says L'chol Yisrael to all of Israel, and now you tell me it's only these 4? Since when do the elders, the head of the tribes, the judges, and the police force, the officers, represent everybody? Since when can a small group represent the whole group? Where do we see that?
Representing the government.
Besides government, but where in the government? No. In Torah. Where do we see that? And everything has to come from Torah. No, seriously, if it doesn't, I can't use American government, so on and so forth. But it has to come from Torah. Where does that concept come? Because we're dealing with biblical stuff here.
When Yisrael said to Moshe to set up different levels of leadership.
That's one thing. Where else? Again with Moshe. Use Moshe as the thing. It says Moshe, and then it says Bnei Israel. So it says that Moshe is Israel. In other words, he's representative. If he makes a mistake, we all pay, and so on, and if they make a mistake, and so on and so forth. But we're looking at the man, the leader, as it. And you see this every single time. With Avram, what is it? Vayavo Avram to wherever he's going. Vayaratz Avram, whatever it is. It's always singular. But it's representative, 318 people. But because he's the leader and he's the one who's pushing everything, he's the motivator, he gets the credit. And it's seen as a one unit. Yisrael, the people in Hebrew. Nation. A nation is not made up of one person. But you call it Amo. Or Amenu, our nation. One. It's a singular form. Is singular. Echad. So all these terms were behema, to get out of people even. Behema, if you say behema, it can either mean one animal, or it can mean the collective form of animals. Adam. Adam is mankind. Or it could be the name of one person, Adam. So it all depends on who we're looking at. Bnei Adam. Okay? Context. Always. But that's, again, we have to understand that when you're looking at the Hebrew, again, Vayikra Yeshua L'chol Yisrael, he spoke to all of Israel. Stop the sentence. I don't need to know. I don't need you to tell me, and Jimmy was here, and Bob was here, and Jimmy Bob was here. I don't need that. You said all of Israel. If I pull my films together, and the rabbi called all his films together, I don't need to be told, my wife, my child, leave me alone. It's in my whole family. I don't need to know anything else as a reader. Pull the whole family together. I assume, as the person reading it, that it meant everybody. I don't go any further. You understand? That's why the commentators say he's telling off or admonishing the leaders. That's number one. Another commentary explains that Joshua actually called together the entire nation, and standing before them were the leaders enumerated who could bear witness to Joshua's age. So they want to go with you. They want to say, forget the grammar. That's another commentary. It says L'chol Yisrael. Let's be honest. But then the same question happens. He said L'chol Yisrael again. Why are you enumerating a certain group? Oh, I'm setting those aside because they have to testify to my advanced age. Okay, fine. Then for the Lord your God, it is He that has fought for you. That's when the guy listened on this one. He just, after that 20-minute speech, he said, it could be that one too.
On the other hand,
it could be this. Okay. The generation of the conquest was witness to the incontrovertible, divine, miraculous manner in which the nations of Canaan had been vanquished. It was their duty to transmit these facts to the coming generation, for the Lord would not repeat these miracles simply for the benefit of scoffers. This also becomes a very important hashkafic point, philosophical point. Everybody says, if God is here, let Him prove Himself, let Him come down, show Himself. The answer is, ain't happening again. Happened once. Splitting of the Red Sea happened. Red Sea happened once. God doesn't come down to perform miracles just to say, I'm here. That's the only reason God performs miracles is for the righteous, not for the wicked. So if the righteous needs it, so then Hashem makes those miracles. Does it have to be an open miracle that everybody sees or recognizes? No, doesn't. It could be a simple miracle for that person. Only that person will recognize it's a miracle. Because, and I always go back to this one example, 6-Day War in 1967. That was, beyond a shadow of a doubt, the greatest miracle of any history. Certainly modern day, but any history. We, the United States of America, with all our firepower, could not end the war in 6 days. It took us 100 days to see the CNN war. That was the Iraqi, first Bush. They called it the CNN war. It was lasted 100 days. It was the mighty United States against Iran, Iraq. And it took 100 days. What took you so long? It took God 6 days. With a fledgling nation. How long were they around? 48 to 67. Who's a mathematician here? Figure it out. It's less than 20 years that they had. 19 years. They had 19 years to pull an army together to make it a viable force to fight against innumerable odds. I hate to calculate the odds of them losing. Actually, the odds of them losing is very easy. The odds of winning.
Even the War of Independence attacked by 6 nations.
But that took a little while. But 6 days to push the enemy back further than they've ever been pushed before, to recapture Jerusalem, to have these 3 guys who are non-religious and look at this wall that they haven't seen, that they never were zoche, they weren't meritorious to see until that moment. That, that famous picture of the 3 guys looking at the wall. Okay? But think about that. And everybody looked and said, it was my military might. Are you insane? But again, that's the point. So God can make open miracles, and we can choose not to see them. But he does it for the righteous. He's not doing it for the scoffers, because bottom line is, the scoffer doesn't believe it. No matter what. He'll find some way, she will find some way to figure out how this was a natural occurrence, or how they were weak, they weren't together. Arabs don't know how to fight. By the way, if you listen to the imams today, they said that. One imam actually said that you're lazy, you don't know how to do it, you don't put your whole heart and soul into it. I was thinking, well, if you're talking about working, it's a very nice motivational speech. If you're talking about killing Jews, please don't bother. But to hear somebody say that is interesting. That's why they're so far ahead. That's what he was saying. That's why the world is ahead of us. And he was using different countries. He didn't use the Jews. He was using different countries to say, look what they're doing. And what are you? You're the richest people, but you have no industry. You have nothing going on. And that's what he was. That's assuming that they actually translate his words correctly. So I'll have to see what that statement too. I don't understand Arabic, but I thought it was interesting. What if he was really saying it? That it was a heartfelt speech, and But I don't know if the speech was really true, because I've seen other people translate a lot of things wrong. So who knows? But that's what he's doing here. So okay, fine, and then it goes on. It says, I allotted to you, so Joshua and his court of 70 elders divided all of Eretz Yisrael up to the various tribes, although some of it had not yet been conquered. And we learned that before. This was done in order that that part that would subsequently be taken by each tribe would not be considered by an individual as an individual conquest, but as an integral part of Eretz Yisrael. And it says, "And the Lord your God shall push them up before you." Again, although Joshua will be gone, the Eternal will continue to cause his providence to be in Israel. Although Joseph and his brothers died, and the God of Israel did not die. The children of Israel multiplied. The continued Jewish history is again that's what he's emphasizing here. Okay, that's what we got to. So he says, Don't turn. Levilti, and now we're in Zion. 7. Levilti bo vagoyim ha'ela, so that you will not come into these nations, hanish arim ha'ela itchem, that these are remaining with you. Uveshem Eloheihem lo tazkiru, and the name of their gods you should not mention. V'lo tashbi'u, and you should not swear in the name of their servant and the name of their gods. V'lo ta'avdum, and you should not worship them. V'lo tishtachavu lahem, and you should not bow down to them. Okay, what's the questions?
It's pretty straightforward. Don't intermingle.
Don't intermingle, right? But
He's being very specific. too.
correct.
Why,
That's what I'm looking at. That's what I want you to. Yeah, that's what I want. That's what I'm looking for.
why,
You're right. Yeah.
Why not even mention the names of their gods? Why?
Because it might sound like you're praying to them if you mention a name.
Okay.
Yeah.
But wait a second. It says you shouldn't mention them, right? So then it goes to say you shouldn't swear by
Right.
them.
Why
Well,
not this
you said I
way?
can't mention them, so how can I swear by them?
Ah,
And if I can't mention them, by the way, why would I be serving them? I can't mention them. And if I can't, I'm not going to serve them, why would I bow down to them?
Stay away from.
No, 100%. You're right, Mike. Stay away from them. But the question is, once you've already said don't mention them, and what does that mean, don't mention them, by the way? I'm walking down the street, and I say, somebody asked me, how do you get to HOC? Actually, where's it? I'll even get it better. Where is the closest mailbox? So what would you say? You tell them it's on, what's that name of the street? What's the name of the street that Moshe is, right off of Moshe? It's not Alkelt, it's, down there, where the post office is, when you turn to go to Moshe's house.
Ridgedale, what?
No, it's not Ridgedale.
Which
The-
Moshe?
your son-in-law. Before Ridgedale. There's one street, a small street, where the church is.
Oh,
Dunmore?
no. Yeah.
Well, okay, fine. Whatever that street is. We don't know the name of the street, right?
Avondale.
Avondale, Shkoyach. Okay. So now what happens is, I don't know streets here. So the guy says to me, where's the closest mailbox? I said, you just go down the street, and when you come to the church, I don't know what the church is called, but when you come to the church, right there. What? I just mentioned it. Just, can you imagine if I knew it was Grace Methodist?
I think
Grace,
so.
I think it's Grace
Yeah,
Methodist.
yeah.
Go to Grace Methodist. Oh, when you see Jesus hanging around, right there. I just mentioned it. Am I allowed to do that?
No.
Seemingly not. So if I can't even mention it, and so when would I swear in the name of God? If I can't mention it, I go to court. Do you swear by and you have to put your hand on the Bible, right? Do you swear by whatever the expression was? Do you swear by God or something that you won't lie? Put your hand on the Bible, and what does it have on the Bible? A nice big cross. So what they do in order to avoid that? They brought in a Jewish Bible.
Yeah.
And then you have besides the atheists, now what they do? Raise your right hand. Say you swear not tell. You swear to tell the truth. I swear. There's no. I don't know who you're swearing to.
Yeah.
But, okay.
I so affirm. Right?
I so affirm. Whatever it is. Okay. But the point is that so that would be a situation where if I have to swear in a court, maybe I'm allowed to do it there. No. Well, okay. So I can't do that. So when I serve them, the guy comes to me and says, we're collecting to build our church. We're collecting for this. Or the Michiganders who come to our doorsteps, Baruch Hashem, they don't come here. But the Michiganders who come to your doorsteps and want to convince you that they're right and you're wrong. And so then they ask you for 25 cents for their watchtower. Ooh, I just was talking about. Okay. But I'm supporting their organization and therefore supporting their stuff. That could be considered worship. And even worse, I think Bill's the one who said this last week. When you had to cross the bridge, you said it? Mm-hmm. When you had to cross the bridge, you had to bend your head, and you were bowing down to whatever it was.
To To an icon.
To an icon.
Oh,
There you go. Lo tishtachavu.
In Rome. Oh, in Rome.
Lo tishtachavu. You can't bow down. So even to get, you don't care about the icon. You don't care about Watchtower. You don't care about the court. So, you know who you're serving. And yet, in all these things, Joshua's saying, emulating what God said, you cannot do this under any circumstances. Not only that, but you should know something else. Don't mention their names. You're not allowed to, because once you mention their name, it's a slippery slope. Once I mention the name, I'm going to do this and this and this and this, ultimately. So don't mention the name, and so on and so forth. But that's really what's going on. It's a progressive slide we're hitting. And in all of these instances, again, you may think, I don't really care about this. Look, I have to get into the place I have to go under. So I'll bend my head. No, you can't bow down. So now you have to do the limbo to get in there. But it's something that we really have to think about. It's not so simple. That when he was speaking, they knew from whence they were coming. And these goyim that were there would do strange things. You know, you want to, again, the story is that the people who worship Bilam, they used to wear Bilam around their neck. And so when the guys wanted to engage in relations with them, they say, before that, you have to kiss it and bow down to this. Okay, so the guys need something else. They're not really interested in listening. So we'll kiss it and bow down. You just broke two of them. You worship that. Bow down. So it's not hard. So that's why Joshua is really giving Musar to his people here. And we'll have to stop. Okay, we are on 23 and we are at 8.